Hello, Perception Trainers community, and welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're going to be talking about why it's not your negative emotions or your negative thoughts that's creating your low vibration. All right, so again, we've talked, I think, about all the little pieces of what we're going to talk about today in this video, but I don't feel like I've ever put them together all together in this, why this law of attraction, positive thinking, shadow work stuff. Everybody has a piece of the picture. Everyone has a piece of the puzzle. No one is wrong, okay? However, when we're really wanting to understand why we have negative emotions, why we have negative thoughts, how we're manifesting our lives, how we're creating our lives, we need to understand that, of course, the reality is a little bit more complex than most of us want it to be. So we look for something like, just don't think a negative thought and bad things will stop happening to you. Don't have a negative emotion. Don't dwell on your negative emotions, because if you dwell on your negative emotions, you're just going to keep recreating conditions that will make those negative emotions keep happening, right? Whereas the shadow people say things like, no, you got to really go into your negative emotions. Just focus on those negative emotions, and if you just get into the negative emotions, get into the negative thoughts, get into your negative beliefs enough, you're going to start understanding things and you'll create this beautiful life after you've done enough healing. And yet, right, the love and light people seem to just they're not really getting what they want. They're not really ever creating the life that they want to live. They're constantly just afraid of their negative emotions and their negative thoughts and thinking, right, that they're doing the right thing, and like every single time something bad happens to them, they think, oh man, it was just because I was thinking negative again and I was blah, blah. And so again, bad things are still happening to them with all their positive thought, and they're just thinking it's just because I'm not positive thinking enough. And then the shadow people are just like constantly dealing with their shadow, and it's kind of like this never-ending loop of inner child work that never seems to actually go anywhere. There just seems to always be more and more and more and more and more of these layers, but it never actually leads to like change, right? And so what we want to understand is that, again, neither camp is wrong, they're just incomplete. And when we start to understand that reality is a little bit more complex, how reality is created is not as simple as just thinking positively all the time and being in this positive state, and that'll create these positive things, or dealing with this shadow all the time and eventually that will lead you to a happiness. It's that we need to understand first and foremost that we are here to learn, okay? We're not here to avoid bad things happening to us. That is not the point of life. So I feel like hopefully from the very beginning of this talk, you can see that it's humanity's desperate scrambling to get to a place where no bad thing happens to us anymore. That's really what's fucking us up, okay? It's our projecting and our labeling of life experiences as being good and bad, right and wrong, painful and useful and not useful. That's really hurting us. So the idea, the Buddhist philosophy that life is about suffering, again, that's an overly simplistic way of looking at it, but it's a little bit closer to the truth. It's to understand that we suffer for a reason, that our suffering is there to show us how we are living in a way that's out of alignment with the reality. The second thing that we have to understand is that being a unique individual, being a singularity within a singularity, means there's no possible way, without experiencing what you're experiencing, that you could know how the reality works, that you could be in alignment, that suffering is the way you're learning how to be aligned. That is the point of suffering. We're not here to suffer for the sake of suffering. We're here to suffer in the sense that we're here to be out of alignment so that we can learn what alignment is. Because ultimately, we want to create something that has never been created before. That is really why we're here. That is what you are as a singularity. You are a fraction, a fractal, a piece, a thread of the universe, seeing itself for the first time, the way you are seeing it. You are informing the universe about an element or an aspect of itself from your specific vantage point that has never been seen that way before. So already in that, you're expanding consciousness through just being the singularity that you are. The single perspective with the multitude of experiences that you are seeing through your specific lens is the reality discovering something new about itself. Okay, so that just in and of itself, you have never been done before. So if we can start to understand that you are a part of what the universe is understanding about the laws of itself. So rather than thinking there's some sort of overarching consciousness that understands how everything works, okay, that totally sees and understands how everything works and is just testing you or withholding things from you or causing you to suffer, right? That you're just here not understanding how it works and there's someone who has the answer, something that has the answer that's just not telling it to you and is letting you fumble around. That is not what's happening. The universe is watching you figure this out. Okay, so all of your suffering has never happened before. It's never been done before. What you want to be has never been done before. The universe doesn't even know how you're going to do it. That is the point here. You are figuring this out for all of us. So if we can let go of this idea that we should know, or that the answers exist perfectly contextually for how we are, right? So yes, we can understand that there are universal laws and principles that we all have to follow. And each one of us seem to have to figure those out for ourselves, okay? So that's like gravity. You don't jump off a cliff. And some of us have to figure that out for ourselves. That there are specific things, especially like around how food in the body is working. So, and this, we're going to get into this, why this creation thing and suffering thing is so much more complicated than it is that, again, there are things that the universe knows about itself. There are things that you can know. Yes? And at the same time, there are a whole bunch of things about you and about what you want to create and about what you want to become that the whole universe is just watching. You are the one that knows. You are the one that's going to figure it out. It doesn't exist in any other way, in any other place. That information is not known. You are the pioneer of you. And the universe doesn't already know how you're going to do what you're going to do, right? So this, and I think I'm going to make another video on why, again, like understanding the self is so difficult. Because, again, who and what you are this is a paradox of reality, that it has fundamental structure, what has already been created. And that, again, when we oppose that, we suffer. It also has fundamental structure, that which has already been created, that we don't know about yet. And we're suffering because we're opposing it, because we literally, nobody knows, nothing knows. You're opposing reality in a way that only you have ever opposed it before. You're discovering how the reality, so this again, through your authentic nature. That's the structure. That's what you can think of, right? That's the Play-Doh that exists in the reality. Your authentic nature is like the universal laws and principles, the structure that already exists, that it's a mirror image, right? So there's the universal laws, as above, so below, these kind of things. That's like your authentic nature. That's the structure. Now, at the same time, every single one of us, as we express authentically, are going to express these laws and evolve these laws in a unique way that's never been done before. So it's not known how you are going to express the law of as above, so below. It's not known how, as you express your authentic nature that has never been expressed in this context ever before. Yes? We don't know what that's going to look like. And you're going to spend a lot of time breaking yourself against your authentic nature in order to understand what your authentic nature is. This is how we discover stuff. So the suffering is like the autopsy. It's the taking it all apart. That's how we learn how things work, right? When we want to understand the human body, we take it apart. We want to understand a machine, we take it apart. We want to understand a plant, we take it apart. We break it all down into its little component pieces, and then we start to put it back together. So that's what suffering really is. Suffering is the taking apart of reality. It's the breaking yourself against the laws, breaking yourself against yourself, the structure, so that you can understand what the structure is. So if you can start to see bad things don't happen, breaking against a law we either could have understood and didn't, or are discovering for the first time, that is what happens. Okay? So that's what pain is. Pain is breaking ourselves against the law that exists. We either could have known it or we couldn't have known it. It doesn't really matter. When we break a law, when we go against a structure, it's going to cause us pain. That pain is a feedback mechanism to tell us, okay, there's where the law is. That's where the structure is. That's the boundary. We just broke ourselves against it. Okay, now we can see it. That's why we have pain. Okay? Suffering is when we start to get into negative or limiting beliefs and false beliefs, right? When we encounter pain, so we've encountered a law, we've encountered the structure, and we tried to go in a way that's against the structure. If we are to say, okay, well, that pain is letting me know that I'm now opposing the structure. So what can I learn about the structure? How can I start to move towards what I want in a different way? That's how we do it. Okay, so desire creates stimulus, stimulates us to move. We have a desire for food, we have a desire for sex, we have a desire for whatever it is, for the perfect human body, desire to express our authentic nature. It doesn't matter. We all have these desires. The desires are what drive us to take action. And it's through living, taking the action, that we bump up against the laws so that we can learn about the structure. So it's desire that's fueling us to actually learn about what the structure is. If we had no desire, we didn't want to create anything, we didn't want to do anything, we didn't want to be anything, we're Zen Buddhas with no desire, we're no longer participating in the creation of life. We're dead. And we really need to understand this. No desire means you're not expanding consciousness anymore. We don't want no desire. What we want is to understand the purpose of desire, which is to draw us to understand how the reality works so that we can evolve reality through first understanding the structure that has never been understood before, because we are the singularity that's only going to see it the way we're going to see it. And then we're going to create something new on top of that structure that, again, because of our unique perspective, only we can create, right? So as we bump up against the reality, we see, okay, my desire to create this thing, how I thought I was going to create it, didn't work. Something happened to me that I didn't think should happen. I was traumatized in some way. I got hurt. There was pain. Okay, what is that telling me about the structure? Well, right, when someone abuses you, that's showing you, that's opposing the structure. We are all one. That person cannot abuse me and not cause pain. And therefore, that's not how we're supposed to live. That's against the law of reality. That's against the structure. That's breaking ourselves against the structure. When we abuse another, we abuse ourselves. We abuse the whole thing. So you learn through being abused that abuse is not a thing. That's against the structure. It's not going to get you where you want to go. You learn not to abuse yourself. Because that's usually what happens when we're abused, is we tend to take on the perspective of the abuser at some point. Either we start to abuse others, or we take the abuse that we were abused with and we start to abuse ourselves that way. And we keep carrying on this suffering because we're acting out of alignment with reality. Rather than saying, okay, this pain is showing me, again, that's not how reality works. That is not true. So now what is true? What feels good in the face of this pain? Right? So we first say, I'm in pain because I don't understand what's happening. I've broken myself against the reality and I don't know why. So now I need to understand the reality. What is this showing me about how life actually works? And as you take that information, everything that happens to you, every painful thing that happens to you, if you use it with that vantage point, what is this showing me about how the structure actually works? And where, again, so now, and then how do I expand on that to create what I want to create? So now when we have these negative thoughts and negative emotions, they're painful. Why? Again, they're showing you where you're seeing the reality as wrong. That's what a negative thought is. That's what a negative emotion is. You have a false belief. You have a limiting belief about the reality that, again, could be something that you adopted from your life that literally you could have had no other way of assuming that that's how it was. Right? So this is not to say that you should have known, that you shouldn't have false beliefs, that you shouldn't have limiting beliefs, or that your false and limiting beliefs don't make sense in the context of your life. They make perfect sense. We all have them because, again, we are unique. This has never happened before. You have never happened before. The abuse that you went through has never happened in that way before. The universe is learning through you, through your experience, something about itself it didn't already know. So you're having an opposition to reality experience, whether that was something you did that caused yourself pain or something that someone did to you that caused you pain. It doesn't matter. That was all the first time that happened that way. The universe is like, oh, okay, there's the boundary. That's the boundary. So now when you are an empowered person, what you're going to say is, okay, this pain and this suffering is pointing me to where I have taken on a false belief or a limiting belief about the reality. That I cannot have my desire, I cannot create my desire because I don't know how the reality works. I'm trying to move in a way that's opposing the reality. I'm trying to live from a place of believing something about myself that isn't true about me. And therefore, everything I try to create from that place isn't going to work because I don't know the structure. I don't really know who I am. I don't have the foundations of what already exists, and therefore I can't evolve it. I can't evolve it into something. So think of it again like this. We can degrade the system when we don't understand it. We can take it apart. But if we really want to evolve it, we want to actually take what is and make it more, we have to understand what already is. We have to build upon what already is. So if you're trying to build upon a false view of yourself, that is a degradation. That's going to cause you more pain and more suffering. If you're trying to live your life from a place of believing something about yourself that isn't true, yes, you are taking things apart. You're not evolving. Because this is the thing about belief, is belief filters what we see. Belief filters how we make choices. Belief filters how we create in this world. So it's not, again, that you have a negative belief and then that attracts a negative person into your life. No, it's you have a negative belief about yourself. I'm only worthy of love from abusive people. That is what love is. Those are limiting beliefs. Those are false beliefs. You may not know that that's what you believe, but that's what you believe. So then when someone who is loving comes into your reality, you filter them out. So it's not that and then when someone abusive comes into your reality, you see that because you resonate with that. That's the lesson you're trying to learn about reality right now. This person who's loving doesn't make any sense to you. So you filter them out and you only see the abusive person. And then it looks like my belief is what's manifesting all this stuff in my life. No, all the other stuff about reality is still there. There's 100 million loving people in your reality that you're just not even seeing, that don't make any sense to you. You don't have a context for that. And you're only seeing the abusive person. So this is how beliefs, first of all, shape what we draw into our life. No, it shapes what you see. It's the filter. A belief is a filter. Okay? It's not calling things to you in that sense. It's filtering the choices that you're making because it aligns with what you believe to be true about the reality. Okay, so you can't evolve to a new way of relating to people if you're holding a false belief about yourself. Because it is through what you believe about yourself that you're making the choices of who to relate with and how to relate to them. And it's also filtering everything that everyone says to you. So again, like when we have this false belief and we're in relationship, someone can be expressing love to you in the way that they express it. But due to your false beliefs, you can't hear it. You can't receive it. It doesn't compute to you. It looks to you like abuse. It looks to you like manipulation, when really it was just an innocent thing. Yes? Your beliefs are filtering how you're perceiving everything that's coming in. So when we start to understand that, and we can see, okay, well, beliefs are a huge deal, right? My negative thoughts and my negative emotions, what is the point of them? They're showing me through my pain mechanism where my false beliefs and limiting beliefs are. Without my painful thoughts and without my painful emotions, I would not know that I was creating out of alignment with reality. So again, remember, the foundation of all of this is we're trying to understand reality in a way that we've never understood it before, because you're a singularity. You've never existed before. The universe doesn't already know how you're going to do what you're going to do and what you're going to expand and evolve into. The vision you have for yourself and the steps that are going to get you there, that's not known. So stop thinking that there's some answer out there that already knows. You're going to figure it out. That's what this is. And it's through that you evolve consciousness itself. That's how life is staying being life. You are one thread in all of life, and you're continuing the cycle of life evolving through being your individual singularity, doing what has never been done before, taking the structure, taking it apart the way that it's never been taken apart before, and putting it together and then evolving it in a way that's never been done before. That's the point of all of this. We suffer, or we have pain, when we oppose the structure. So if we can start to understand that pain is showing us where we're opposing the structure, where we're participating in something that's opposing the structure, we're being abused, and what we're making that mean about us, what we're making that mean about life, that's the pain. We're learning together as a collective what is out of alignment with truth. And we're discovering truth for the first time. Every single time we discover something that's out of alignment with truth. So if we can take our suffering and we can say, okay, the suffering and the pain that I'm in is me breaking myself against my authentic nature, against the reality, both and the structure, which means I cannot create what I came here to create. Because the only way to create what I came here to create is to understand the structure that already exists and to build upon it. If I don't understand the structure, all I can do is break it down. I cannot create what I want to create from a place of not understanding what I am, what the structure is. This is what we need to understand. As we break ourselves against the structure, if we choose to say every single thing that I go through that is painful, that's my guidance system. Say, okay, that's something you need to learn. That's something you think this is how it is, or you just didn't know that at all, and it's important for you to understand. So this is why it's not as simple as saying your negative thoughts or your negative emotions are creating negative experiences. They are filtering your perception so that you're only seeing those things But that's for a reason. Because you're supposed to go into those negative things. You're supposed to go into those painful situations. You're going to keep having that painful relationship over and over and over again until you learn what the truth is. Through seeing what the truth isn't. The pain is there to show you, okay, what am I believing about myself? What am I believing about life? What is this whole thing showing me about how the structure doesn't work? This is not what this is. I am not this worthless. I am not this invaluable. I am not whatever, all of this stuff. And so when we go into our negative emotions and we go into our negative thoughts, we're going in understanding that the pain we're in is there to show us where we're believing something that's totally out of alignment with the truth. And we're discovering that truth for the first time. So it takes time. So we spend time with our negative thoughts and our negative emotions, not being afraid that it's going to keep making us manifest shit, because it is. So this is what I'm saying. It's not that your negative thoughts and your negative emotions aren't driving you to continue to engage in the same shitty stuff over and over again. It is. But you want that because you have to be exposed to the untruth, sometimes over and over and over again, before you're going to learn what the truth really is. That's why it's like, yeah, kind of. But the thing is, just thinking something positive, like thinking the opposite thought, I'm worthy. If you don't really believe that, you don't really understand why that's true, you don't really get why that's true. Nothing changed. Your foundational belief didn't change. And so you're still going to be in the abusive relationship, having positive thoughts while someone abuses you. It's not going to change anything because you didn't actually understand what was driving you to be in that negative belief, abusive relationship to begin with. What did you actually believe about the reality and what's actually true? So when we're looking at really changing our beliefs, again, we don't want to just replace negative thing with positive thing. We want to say, okay, what is it that I'm actually believing here? What's the actual belief that I have? This relationship is all that I deserve. Why do I believe that? What's really going on here? And we spend time with these negative thoughts and these negative emotions. And then, okay, so this is where the positive people have it right. That at some point you're going to have to say, okay, this belief that I have about myself that I'm not worthy and all this stuff, this isn't true. But if I keep acting the way I've always acted, if I keep living like this is true, I'm going to keep filtering out the other things, choosing all the stuff that's creating this to be in my life over and over again. And I'm never going to have a different experience because I'm not behaving differently. And we have to start to understand that, especially as adults, we're not children anymore, right? When we're children, a lot of stuff happens to us. And we kind of have to accept that we're in a state as children where we don't have control over our realities, right? Our caretakers have control over our reality. And a lot of the things that we're exposed to, we can't avoid it. And that's, again, good. Because that's setting the foundations for, like I said, like all of us had out of alignment childhoods. We all learned things that weren't true through pain. Now we take that stuff and we take it in our adult lives now. And we say, okay, now, where do I have the power to change my behavior in this or that way that aligns closer to what I know to be true? So eventually you get to a place where you're in the abusive relationship. Maybe you don't have the ability to completely break up with the person at first. But you can start to say, okay, the next time they say this to me, I'm going to stand up for myself. And it's going to be a big fight. Or whatever it is that's going to happen. I'm going to do something that's more in alignment with who I truly am. With the truth. This person shouldn't be doing this to me. This is painful. Now, and then again, I'm going to start to understand, why am I accepting this? Why am I subjecting myself to this? Well, because I believe if I leave this person, I won't have money or I won't have security and all this. So then now this is opening up a whole bunch of other beliefs that you have. Yes, about your ability to provide for yourself and your ability to do what you need to do, and seeing the system the way that it is, and that all of it is pretty fucked up. Okay, so again, it's not so simple, right? We're not suffering individually just because of individual choices we're making. We're all suffering as a collective together. And yes, the shitty choices your neighbor make affect you. The shitty choices your partner makes affect you. So we can't pretend we're all just living in our little individual realities. We're not. We're all connected. And we're all living in our individual realities. It's both and. So again, you see why this is so complex? No one wants to understand how reality actually works, because it's not so simple. It's not a soundbite. It's all these pieces coming together. So then what we start to say is, okay, where is the power that I do have in the situation I'm in right now? And so what I want to say here is that when we understand that we are powerful creators, what we're going to see is that, again, we may not be able to go from complete victimization, completely disempowered, completely out of alignment, in a lot of pain and suffering, to bliss in one step. That's not going to happen. But you can take one step towards empowerment. You can take one step towards living closer into alignment with truth. So this is like how I have created my life. I was a normal person, born into the system with a sick body, into religion, into the regular education system, into the financial system that exists. I was told that my spiritual sensitivities and my emotional sensitivities were wrong. I was mentally and emotionally abused by my caretakers. Like, all of this shit happened to me. I was just like everybody else. I suffered. Born into a system, right? That did have power over me. Let's be honest, right? It's not easy to completely change your life in the system that exists right now. However, I have been able to. I have completely and radically shifted every area of my life. From the life I was born into to the life that I'm living now. There was not even a context for this, what I'm living. How? Not in one fell swoop. Okay? I had a whole bunch of shitty beliefs about myself. I had a whole bunch of shitty beliefs about the reality. I was suffering just like everybody else. Everybody is suffering. Okay? Everybody is suffering. Everybody is in pain. No one is unique in that. That is the universal human experience. We suffer. We oppose the reality. People are opposing the reality on us. It's happening. We're being victimized by each other. That is not something we can say isn't happening. And if anyone tries to tell you that you've never been victimized, that you have created all of it, that's a lie. Okay, but as adults, we all have the ability to take one step. It might be very little, it might be very inconsequential, but we can take one step right now towards a little bit more empowering, even if that's just believing a little bit something better about ourselves than we used to believe, right? We have the tape running, you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit. Okay, no, I'm not. Here's all the things that have told me that I'm a piece of shit, but that feels shitty, that feels terrible to think. So what's a thought that feels better to think? Well, I'm the best. That doesn't feel good either. Maybe I'm not so shitty. Look, I'm kind of good at this thing. That's it. Do that. That little thought, just that little seed, right? You didn't go from, I hate myself, I'm a piece of shit, and I'm worth all this abuse, to, I'm the queen of the world and fuck you. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to be like, I'm the worst. Okay, but maybe I have a little bit of value in this one little area. And you start to just see that. And you can hold that as a truth for where you are right now. Right? And you can see, okay, well, when I believe that I'm shitty at this thing, it feels terrible. When I believe that I'm good at this thing, it feels good. So that's showing me, okay, so there's a part of the reality that I just figured out. To believe that I'm bad at this thing opposes the structure. To believe that I'm good at this thing doesn't oppose the structure. So therefore, that's not a belief, that's reality. I am good at this thing. I'm kind of good at this thing. There's a little bit of something about me that has value, and this is what it is. And then we do that again. One little thing, right? Painful belief, painful belief, painful belief. Your whole life is painful. There's one little area you can say, okay, well, what's this little thought that feels a bit better? Okay, so that must be closer to truth. So then again, that's not a belief. That's reality. And we do this over and over and over again. We take these little steps, and eventually you're going to be ready to just say, okay, you can't treat me like that. I'm saying no. And I had no idea 10 months ago that I could say no. And I had no capacity to have the fight that saying no was going to have. But now I do. And then you're going to do that, and it's going to be horrible, and it's going to be traumatizing. But it's going to move you one step closer. And eventually, so this is what I'm saying, right? I was born into the same system everyone else was in. The system hasn't changed. It's still there. Everything that I was born into still exists. The world has not changed. I changed. I changed myself enough to align with the truth of reality. I saw the consensus reality that everyone else is living in. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to have a job, you got to do these things. It's blah, 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 this. And I questioned it. What if I don't? What if I don't have to do that? What if I don't have to do that? What if I can do this instead? Right? And that's the other thing too, is that we know we're creating and we're living in alignment with truth when it's not just getting away from what we don't want, but it's moving towards something totally different, right? So it wasn't like, I don't want a 9-to-5, so I'm going to just quit my 9-to-5 and move to Thailand and whatever. No. I said, I don't want a 9-to-5, so what of value can I offer the world that's different than just working a 9-to-5? So I started my company, and I worked for other people while I built my company. I never expected this to become something that I could just do as my job forever. But I got myself some skills so that I could offer something, right? I still see that that's how the monetary system works. It's still trade for value. So if I wanted something, I had to offer something of value. And if I didn't want to do a 9-to-5, I had to think of something on my own, right? So I did that. I created that. And that's how I started to make things different. So the bottom line here is this. Your beliefs are not what is attracting negative things to you. Your beliefs are what are filtering the reality so that you can start to see where you're breaking yourself against it. And this could be something you're learning for the very first time, so don't get hard on yourself. It's not that you should have known. You couldn't have known. You're the first person to ever do it like this. So you have two choices. When you're in pain and when you're suffering, you can let that continue to make you believe that life is against you, that you have it right. What you're thinking about yourself and what you're thinking about the reality and the life and yourself and all this stuff is just painful. Or you can say, no, this is my pain mechanism telling me I'm believing something that's not true. I've never seen what the truth is, so I don't really know what I'm going to replace it with. But I'm going to start to experiment with little thoughts that feel better, little actions that feel better. I'm not going to get from where I am to where I want to be in one fell swoop. It's going to be little, tiny little things that help me discover the nature and the structure of reality, one piece at a time. Because again, whatever it is that I'm suffering with right now is just the training ground to help me understand how the reality works so that I can create the thing I came here to create, which is not just to not be in a shitty relationship, to not be in a shitty financial situation, to be healthy. That's the training ground for understanding how the reality works through opposing it. And then getting to the point where you start to say, okay, every time I'm suffering, every time I'm in pain, where am I opposing reality? What do I need to learn here? Right? You open your perspective. I've got it wrong. I'm suffering because I got it wrong. And that's a good thing. Because if you got it right and you're suffering, that means you have to suffer. If you got it wrong and you're suffering, that means when you get it right, you won't suffer anymore. So we want to be wrong. So where am I wrong? Where am I not seeing the reality correctly? And then one little step forward, one little move forward, one little move towards reality at a time. And then you start to get to a place where it's not belief. You're not replacing belief with belief. You're replacing belief with reality. How it actually works, and then how you're going to evolve it. So don't be afraid of your negative thoughts. Pain is letting you know where you need to go to figure out the truth. And then you need to act on the new thing. So it's both and. Positive and negative. Okay? Like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.